Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're finding some joy in your life. I'm recording this after a whirlwind few days here running around New York City between fun stuff and friend stuff. I saw my friend Lawrence, who some folks might know is my drummer from my previous band, Bright Ugly. I saw his new band, Neck Scars, at Gold Sounds. That was on Thursday night. That was a very fun show. Saw a lot of really great punk rock bands. Very fun time. Then Friday night, I caught the Front Bottoms at Terminal 5 with some friends I'd seen the Front Bottoms before, but just put on an incredible show. Their show went up to another level in terms of production. It was really cool to see a band that I remember watching open for Motion City Soundtrack continue to progress and to get bigger. And the entire crowd was such a tremendously great vibe. I really, really enjoyed being there. I also loved that the intro song before the set, they played almost the entirety of Margaritaville by Jimmy Buffett, rest in peace. And the night after that, attended the Menzingers at a new venue in Maspeth, New York, which I think is technically Queens, called the Knockdown Center. Saw the Menzingers, who just put out an amazing new record, and the set was pretty great swath of songs from all of their albums. And then one of the openers, Microwave, I had never heard of before, but I am definitely going to be checking out more of. And then Sunday, I wake up after 3 straight days of general admission shows to get down to Lower Manhattan and support my friend Paul Cohen in the NYC Kidney Walk. Paul is the co-chair of this event. Raised a lot of money for kidney research, kidney treatment, and they do this walk every year. They do them in a bunch of different places. It's kind of a charity part of the charity fundraising thing, and I got to participate in the walk this year, and it was very positive, great vibe. Met a lot of really cool people. It's really nice to be able to go and support my friend, who you'll be hearing on this podcast again soon, because it's just about time for his annual holiday return, where we recap the punk rock of the year. And punk rock is what we're talking about today, folks, because my guest on the show today is musician Gina Volpe. Gina used to play guitar in the band Lunachicks. I would say she still does. Lunachicks are still an active band, and she's also an incredible solo artist. She has a new single out called Drink Me, which is available everywhere you get your music, from her upcoming new solo album that'll be released in the next couple of months. And Gina, I got the opportunity to chat with her, and I had read about the history of the Lunachicks. But Gina is really a fountain of New York City stories, and specifically New York City punk rock stories. Longtime listeners of the show will know my lover of all things punk and my admiration for all things New York City, especially the artists who create, work, and live here. And this is the first time I've spoken to anyone with firsthand experience playing CBGBs. And so you're going to hear me geek out when we get to that part of the interview in the beginning. And this was just like an incredibly delightful and pleasant conversation. Gina has played with all of your favorite bands. She's been to around the world playing music, something that I always aspired to do and continue to aspire to, because the game isn't over until I'm in the ground, folks, or not so much in the ground, or is just sort of like scattered to the winds in a more poetic sense. Still haven't quite determined that yet, but Gina is a delight, and I'm so happy I got to talk with her again. Her new single is available now wherever you get your music. And I have links for her, everything related to Gina Volpe in the description. So make sure after you listen to this, you go out and check out her stuff as well, and get excited for that new album. So thank you for being here, and let's talk to Gina Volpe. very early 2000s Blink 182, Sum 41 sense of the word. I like talking to real punks, and especially I feel like New York punk rock is an entirely different breed entirely. If
It,
you know what I mean.
It is. I mean, every region breeds their own type, and then of course every generation too. So there's like specific sounds to a place, a city, a country, and then also I think there's a time frame too. There's a timestamp, and you can really hear it. You had mentioned the Sum 41 and the Blink 182, and that is like a very specific time and era in punk, in the timeline of punk.
Yes, absolutely. And like the sound of that music just screams like Southern California beach and
Yeah.
burritos. And
Yeah,
and when I was listening to your music, I did a little bit of a dive here into your solo stuff as well as Lunachicks, talking about like the sounds of an era and a time. Especially when I was listening to the new single, that guitar riff just takes me. I felt like I was immediately checked into a room at the Chelsea Hotel, and I mean that in the best sense of
I
the
love
word.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Does it? It's always interesting to me to hear other people's interpretation of what I sound like, because a lot of times, they're like, "Well, describe your music," and I'm like, "I don't freaking know. You describe it." Like it's always because you never know what you're going to get, because what I think it sounds like always sounds so different to other people, and it's interesting to me. So.
Oh well, yeah, I could totally compare notes. Hi, puppy.
Sorry.
It's all good. This is part of the charm of this medium that I love so much.
He was nice and quiet before, but now we're getting closer to dinner time, and he's like, "Yo, what the hell?"
I understand completely. So what it sounded like to me, in listening to it, because it has this like lovely combination. It has this sort of like combination that I haven't heard too much recently of that sort of, there's that sort of like that style of guitar riff that's sort of like bendy down kind of like, it reminds me of just like grungy kind of punk shows and like DIY kind of spaces, and like I could smell like the stale beer. It reminds me a lot of this place I used to go to see comedy at, called Cabin, when I first moved to New York City. Like I just was instantly taken back to like a very specific kind of like raucous, sweaty good time. And then the sort of like kind of electronic influences, the sort of like, I don't know if you would describe it as like electro or like house, four on the floor. It takes, that was like, and not that I'm very tuned into like the club scene or the house scene in New York, but I definitely know that that's a thing. Like it's a combination of two different styles where the collective goal is sweaty good times dancing.
Yes. I love a dance rock song, I mean, I love going to see live music, and I listen to a lot of rock, hardcore, metal, but like I love the kind of live music that you can actually dance to. Like it's rock, it's heavy rock, but it makes you want to dance. I like combining those two elements, and I feel like there was a lot of bands like maybe in the late '80s, like the new wave, kind of like Killing Joke. I love Killing Joke. Like that to me is like that's a punk band. They're heavy, they're hard, they're aggressive, but they're also, you can dance to it. It's really cool. So I love stuff like that. So I like putting the synthesizer in there, and then the dance claps in there to just keep that element going, to just keep the song pumping.
Yes, it keeps it fun. Like that, all of those kind of little stylistic flourishes are just inherently like good time kind of vibes. 100%. Like, because you can't not like hear hand claps and go along with it.
Yeah, exactly.
It is impossible. In a way, it reminds me a lot of like rock and roll from like the 50s, back when it was like still like, this is dance music, and like the sort of like really fast kind of like let's go to the hop kind of
right,
kind of songs. Like there's a certain sense of "Carefree Abandon" to the new single, and I sort of
I like it.
yeah, and I love the
I like that Carefree Abandon. Yes, I'm using that.
oh, absolutely, please. Like if I could be on a website, your website somewhere is like "Carefree Abandon," love it. I would happy to be that quote. Um, so I want to ask you, like, to kind of trace these influences somewhat. Um, so much of this time, I'm curious what your experience of what I'm hearing was. Were you born in New York City?
So I was born in Yonkers, which is
Okay,
right outside the Bronx.
right.
Yo in the house. And then when I was very young, like my elementary school years were spent in Mount Vernon, which is right outside the Bronx.
Hmm.
So and my we would come into the Bronx because my family was from the Bronx, so we come in every weekend. But I moved when I was 12. I moved to Manhattan, so technically I did not, I grew up, my adolescence was spent right in New York City, but as a young child, technically I was in the suburbs.
Gotcha.
So I can't really claim like, I grew up on the hard streets of New York City. I mean, I kind of did, but it was a little bit later on. So
Yeah, it was a gradual like stepping in process. Like you were
yes.
in the shallow end, and then like whoop, over the bridge.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I got really lucky. My mom decided to move us into the city like right before adolescence hit,
Uh huh.
and I'm just so glad. I'm so glad she did that because I was 12 and hormones were kicking in, and all of a sudden it was like, "Oh my god, we have this big giant world to explore and get on the subway and go do whatever the hell we did." So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, I'm so envious of this growing up experience because I'm a transplant. I've been in New York for 13 years, but to my wife, who she's going to come up a lot in this conversation, who's born and raised in Prospect Heights, lived through like the 80s and 90s, I will never be. I'm an outsider for
Yes.
forever.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Southern Maryland, about an hour south of
Oh,
DC. So I think the biggest claim to fame is this really famous Marine Museum, and I think a scene from a Clint Eastwood movie was shot near my mom's house growing up,
okay.
but nothing like the but nothing like, oh, we're gonna take the 4 train down to the F, or we're gonna go see the New York Dolls for $3.
Yeah. Well, I did get to see the New York Dolls, but I did get to go see the CBGB's matinees, which were always $5, if not free, and they were all ages. So I started going when I was 14 years old. I could just hop on the subway and take myself over there, and that was pretty freaking cool, to have that kind of freedom. And I know that if you don't grow up, like for the friends of mine who got who I left behind back in Mount Vernon, you have to drive everywhere, and you have to get your parents to drive you everywhere, and you just don't have that same kind of autonomy and freedom when you are dependent on adults and vehicles.
Yeah, you have to wait for that classic, oh, I finally got a car kind of moment, if you're lucky to have that. But man, so 14 you're going to CBGBs. And were those like the hardcore matinees? I heard CBGBs used to do like hardcore matinees for
Yeah, they were
Saturdays.
all hardcore matinees, and I didn't know anything about hardcore. I was really into punk, but I just hardcore. I was like, I don't know. I was just like this nerdy kid and just wanted to get in on the action. And most of the time, we were just hanging out outside anyway. And it was a big scene. Wasn't really it took me a little while to find my people because again, it wasn't necessarily the music that I liked, but I liked just being down there and being where the action was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's something to being able to say you were at like an early Cro-Mags or a Gorilla Biscuit show, and then like the actual experience of like, oh, I might die. I might die in this pit today. That's that's so cool. I have one question. It's just a nerd about CBGBs. Um, the bathrooms, were they as gross as everyone says they were?
Oh yeah, they were disgusting. They were disgusting. In fact, just the mere mention of it I can recall the stench of not just the bathroom but the whole club itself. Like it is ingrained in my um what is it, olfactory memory
Right.
stores. But because after the matinees, I mean, then when I started having, when we formed Lunachicks and we started playing at CB's, I basically grew up on that stage. I mean, we played at CB's for the whole entire 13 years of our career, and then I continued on with other bands playing at CB. So until literally like their very last night when they closed. So I feel like I know every cell in my body knows that club on a visceral level. The way it smelled, the way the stage felt under my feet, the sound system in there was incredible. I saw so many amazing shows there
Amazing.
over the years.
That is, I know exactly what you're talking about. The Creek in the Cave in Long Island City was a comedy club I spent most of my 20s in, and I remember that smell. I remember like every sort of like plumbing mishap. I remember floods during a hurricane. I remember like the taste of the food. Like it'll just take me like right back there. There's just something so like powerful about those like formative, like especially like when you're a teenager and you're developing that sense of self, and like you're really finding like things on your own for the first couple times. That's really that's so cool. And I don't know if it was like this back then, but like I started doing shows in the era of like you have to sell a certain number of tickets kind of in order to be able to do the show. And
Right.
I don't, was CBGB's ever like that, or was he just kind of like,
Yes, it was. We
really?
had to audition. So Sunday nights at CBGB's were audition nights. So if your band wanted to play it at CBGB's, you had to basically prove to the club that you could bring in enough people to make that, make it worth their while to book you. So Sunday night, like, we booked an audition night, and we basically got we bribed and begged all of our friends to come and pack the club so that they would continue to book us on bigger shows.
Yeah.
And so we packed the club, and we were like 18-year-old girls. We packed the club with all of our other 18-year-old girls. And Stevie was like, who doesn't want a whole club full of teenage girls dancing around? Yeah, you got the gig. And they started booking us regularly from there on out. But we had to audition.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember. Oh man, I remember those days too. Like I remember driving around to all my friends' houses. Like, if I come to you, will you buy this $5 ticket?
Yeah.
But why? But that's kind of like, again, like to be excited about it. Like I don't know what like your school experience is like. I know that you went to a kick-ass high school because my wife went to the same high school. Again, so
Oh, she did?
Yeah, she went to the same high school you did. She went to LaGuardia.
Oh, LaGuardia.
Yeah, she actually went to college closer than she went to high school from where she grew up. That's one of her fun fun claims to fame.
She went to college in Brooklyn.
She went to college in Manhattan in
Oh, okay.
like in NYU, but then she used to commute up to LaGuardia. So you knew like the arts was for you early on because you have to select the performing arts school, don't you?
Yes. I mean, and talking about auditions, you have to audition. But well, so for performing arts, you have to audition for the visual arts, which I was. You have to have a portfolio review, and and an interview. You got to show them all your work. And so I'd been gearing up for that, but I was always, I mean, since as long as I can remember, I was always drawing, painting. I was a visual artist before I was a musician.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I did also audition, like I did a monologue for the performing arts section, which I failed miserably at and did not get in, which was no surprise. But
So
I did try.
So you're a visual artist first. What was your medium?
I am. Well, back then it was just kind of anything I can get my hands on.
Uh-huh.
Now mostly it's painting and drawing and illustration, but I love to make I'm a decorative painter by trade. It's actually my day job.
Uh-huh.
So I paint murals and I do finishes. But I also used to work in TV and film doing props and scenicking and set dressing and building stuff, and just as long as I'm creating something, I'm a happy camper.
I know exactly what you mean. There's like an insane, incessant kind of need
Right.
to do something. Like I like act. I started like doing high school theater, picked up the guitar. Did It's kind of the path I followed my entire life. If I didn't, I would have been the weird gamer kid who never leaves his house. So I'm
Right.
very happy for the arts.
That was your only other alternative.
Yeah, exactly. I think my highest aspiration for a job at a certain point in my life was to like work at a record store, and this is before I'd even seen like High Fidelity or Tower Records. I just thought that would be a cool thing to do.
You know what? It's still a cool thing to do. I
Oh,
still love the idea of it.
I
That and be a DJ. I would love to be a DJ because I love DJing.
oh, I bet you would be amazing at that.
I am an amazing DJ. I'm going to totally toot my own horn here, but I used to DJ at a lot of the bars and clubs on the Lower East Side, and yeah, I love making playlists. I used to making the mixtapes. That was back in the '90s with the cassette tapes.
Yeah,
But it's like my thing.
that's awesome. And so when you're going to arts high school, what do you remember the moment that you were drawn to guitar in a way of like I want to play, or I want to write songs? Was that a clear moment for you?
I think that actually started early on when I was a kid in grade school, but I didn't have a guitar, and then my mom, like when I was in like maybe freshman year, my mom had this like hippie boyfriend who had an acoustic guitar, so he started teaching me some Beatles songs. When I was like, Beatles songs are hard. Just like I put it down for a while, but then I came across just coincidentally Led Zeppelin 2. And I was like
Yeah.
16 and I had a blue mohawk and I was like, I hate classic rock, punk rock all the way. But I don't know, whatever reason, Led Zeppelin 2 came on. I was at a party and I had remembered that album because I had an older hippie sister who used to blast it. And I heard it and I was like, oh, I remember this album from when I was a kid. And then I heard the guitar solo on A Whole Lot of Love and I was like, oh my God, I need to learn how to play that. And that was like my eureka moment. Like
Uh-huh.
I was like, I have to start playing guitar. I want that. And so my best friend at the time, Miriam, had a hippie brother. No, he was not hippie. She was a hippie. He was a metalhead. He was the one who told me about Metallica.
Okay.
And he lent me his pink BC Rich cheesy metal guitar and off I went.
Mhm. Oh man, BC Rich has had like the classiest, absolute classiest finishes. I think for one point they just had like a girl's butt as a finish for at one point. It's like brightest neon. That's yeah, you need the metalhead brother. That's like
Yes,
you absolutely
the
need that
little
person.
metalhead brother.
Yeah.
And he was like 13, and he was one of those finger tapper noodlers. Dilla, 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 dilla.
Eddie.
But I never even heard of Metallica because I did not listen to metal, and he was like, yeah, listen to this. It's Metallica. Here's this BC Rich. Okay, all right. Taking cues from a 12-year-old, but hey, I thank him to this day for
Yeah,
it.
he pointed you in the right direction. And Zeppelin too, like they like another band full of those kind of like very like kind of bluesy sort of like
Yeah.
gritty rock and roll riffs, especially like the legends of Zeppelin live compared to the studio. I've always heard they were like a lot more chaotic live than they would ever be on record. So again, there's a certain sort of again like just chaotic energy kind of keeps coming back to me as a descriptor, and I say it in the most complimentary way possible when I listen to your stuff.
Oh, do I? Oh, I like it. I guess that makes sense because my brain is chaotic. And that video, I don't know if you saw the video, but the video for the single that
Yeah,
just
I
came
did.
out. I saw this woman's. She's a multimedia digital artist, and I saw some videos that she had made on Instagram, and I was just like, that's my brain. That's the inside of my brain. And I reached out to her and I was like, hey, want to make a music video? And it just worked out so perfectly. But because her stuff is so chaotic and so incredible, like there's so much going on all the time. So yeah, I totally identify with that.
Yeah, and like so many like just like bright colors, like really amped up,
Yeah,
amplified kind of colors. Like it really fits
yeah.
the whole vibe of the song completely. I really think she did a great job. It was awesome.
Yeah, she knocked it out of the park. She's incredible. I can't even believe my luck. Like I cold reached out to her and it worked out so above and beyond what I could have ever have hoped for.
It's so great when things like that happen. It's like it's
Yeah, it's rare, right? And that never happens. Like you just reach out to a stranger
yeah.
and she's I love her. Like she's a great person. She's an awesome person and she's fabulous to work with and like all of those things are just that never happens.
No,
That smoothly at least.
no, absolutely not. It's always like very like fraught and difficult, and like nobody can get together on the same time to plan.
Yeah.
But those moments when they do happen are just they'll
Yeah.
keep you going for like the next 15 to 20 years. That's
Yeah.
been my experience. Okay, so you're playing CBGBs, and this is with Lunachicks. Like you started that band early, right?
Yeah, we were in high school when we started. Yeah.
Wow. So, and then like where else was there to play in New York at that time? So if there's CBGB, is there like punk other venues? Was Max Kansas City still around?
Not no. We they I never went to Max's. I feel like that was the era right before us.
Yeah.
There was like Max's and the Peppermint Lounge and the Mud Club, and those are the clubs that were like my older sisters would have gone to, but they were kind of all closed down by the time we started coming around. But we there was the Limelight, which was the church on 6th Avenue and 22nd Street. Um, there was Lismar Lounge on First Avenue and Third Street. And then we used to play there, but then the Hells Angels kind of took over as
Uh,
their club. And then we there was the Pyramid Club on Avenue A, um, which I believe is still there.
oh,
Um,
nice.
I saw Nirvana at the Pyramid Club when nobody knew who they were, and there was 15 people in the audience. 15 people. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Holy shit. So like way before Nevermind, like Bleach era.
Yeah, it was Bleach era, and I got a hold of that record, and I was obsessed, and I thought they were amazing, and so I was so excited when they came to town, and I ran down a Pyramid thinking there's just to be packed, and there was only 15 people there. I'm like, what is wrong with everybody? This band is great. Yeah, and then and a year later,
Everybody
50,000. Yeah,
everybody caught on. Man,
yeah.
what was that show like? What was what what was it, man? What is Kurt Cobain like on stage? Like in in the flesh? Because obviously I've seen like concert footage of him, but like to be like in the same vibe room, that's wild.
All the thing that I remember most about that show was actually that I don't know who was in the audience, but there was a couple guys in the audience that just were relentlessly heckling the bass player. And it became and it was like it went through the entire show. They were just making fun of him and just yelling in between songs, just really giving him a hard time. And that's what I remember most. I felt really bad for the bass player, actually.
Oh man.
That's what I remember most about that show.
Ah.
And there was nobody else there, but it was awesome. It was a great show.
Oh, that is so cool. So you're like you're playing shows, you're doing this, and then when when does like the next step for Lunachicks happen? Like when did you start like putting out records?
Well, it happened actually kind of fast for us. We were playing at the Limelight, the church I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
and it was like maybe our third or fourth show. And in the audience was Kim and Thurston from Sonic Youth,
Yeah.
and they really liked us, and they approached us after and said, we want to talk to you about working with you. And they brought us to their English record label, Blast First. And Blast First said, okay, we'll sign you guys if Sonic Youth, produces your album. So that was the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Although when we went in to when we went in to record the first album, and again, we were teenagers. We were so obnoxious. I mean, we were such dicks. And I think we just drove them crazy because we didn't know what we were doing. And he was like herding cats. And they were like, you can't tell us what to do. And they were just like, oh my God, we're babysitting these kids. Like, what? Why are we doing this? And they walked away from the project, and I don't blame them. But the label decided to keep us on regardless. And so, yeah.
That's good. Man, being in the recording studio for the first time, I can always imagine it's such like a change to when you're like used to playing live or like in your practice space.
Yeah,
I just love the fact that you drove Kim and Thurston nuts. That's fucking rock and roll, Gina.
I mean, we didn't know anything about professionalism. Like 18, 19 years old, we just wanted to smoke pot and eat snacks, and just we thought we were Kiss. We're Kiss. We're gonna be huge. We're gonna play arenas. We want to sound like Kiss. And they were like, "No, you're just a shitty noise band." We're like, "We're not a shitty noise band," but we were a shitty noise band. We were terrible.
And I mean, I feel like if anybody knows good noise, it's the members of Sonic Youth.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, here's a really pretty part of the song. Cronk, 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 cronk. Oh, Thurston, what's your guitar tuned to? It's tuned to D, B, F, C, G sharp, J.
It's tuned to.
Yeah. I tune it in Morse code, and then I play in Morse.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my take on Sonic.
Something that I could way appreciate now, but at the time I was like, no, I want to sound like Jimmy Page.
Right. And was that, and I'm curious to ask you, like, that experience maybe to later experiences you had with different producers, because I imagine that record was, if it's like, was that record like cut live, or were you like doing drums then doing bass guitars and vocals?
No, I think all of our records were basically live, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's, now that I'm in the digital age, like, I record everything separately, but I don't know if you can hear my dog.
He's
dude, he's like, it's dinner time. What the hell, lady?
What kind of dog do you have?
Here, do you want to see him?
Sure.
June's. Okay, but you can't make fun of my messy house.
Oh, of course not.
You see June's. Where's the June's? June's, say hi.
Oh, hi, June's.
There's June's.
Oh, you're a cutie. Oh,
he's so cute. He's a pain in the ass, but I love him. Good thing he's so cute. Anyway, back to music. Yes, everything was recorded live, and then we would overdub like backups and guitar solos and stuff like that. But like, for the most part, bass, drums, guitar were all cut, live.
Right on. And like, what is something? Do you remember anything in particular that really stuck with you in terms of like recording? Doesn't have to be that record; can be any of them. Because I thought I read that you did an album with Fat Mike as one of the producers.
Yes, we did. Actually, that was a really fun experience, and that was in San Francisco, in an old Victorian house where apparently Anne Rice wrote Interview with Vampire. But that's another story. But I just thought that was a cool, fun fact. But yes, we recorded with Fat Mike, who is hilarious and made us laugh the whole time. But we did have, it was interesting because, and going back to the SoCal sound that you were mentioning earlier, Fat Mike is pretty much, I feel like the person who started that sound. Like, he created that sound that all those bands afterward, Blink 182 and Sum 41, like, they just took so many cues from Fat Mike and NOFX. Like, I feel like he started a genre of punk onto itself. And we, being from the East Coast, we just came from a way different sensibility. So it was interesting to kind of get the meld of those two things, or at least try to. We were
Mm-hmm.
stubborn.
No, I agree with you. I think he's sort of like for the he was sort of like the grandfather of like all the bands that I by the time I was a teenager was really into. Like if you trace it all back, you trace there's probably like NOFX and then the Descendants and then probably if you go way back the Ramones to the year before. Like that's sort of like sort kind of like because I never know if he's like that all the time. Like when I see him in interviews, like I wonder what he's like when the cameras aren't on him.
No, he's like that all the time. he's, he's just like one of those people that he's just really charismatic and really funny and very chill. Like he's just very honest and open and just leaves everything out on the table and just easy to be around.
That's cool. Yeah, I feel I see the heart beneath the like wow. um,
Yeah.
yeah, one time on Warp Tour, he like was like it was when I lived in Maryland. He called us like all a bunch of heroin addicts, and people started throwing their shoes at him, and he just like took it straight. He's like, "Oh, I got all these free shoes." So yeah, I figure he's probably a pretty like live guy as well. He doesn't strike me as someone who would be gravitated to a lot of like studio trickery.
No, no. He's like really big on the sing-songy and the harmonies and that kind of stuff, which for me was a little bit hard to stomach. It's just not my sensibility. I can appreciate it, but like me personally, I was just kind of like, but then other members of the band were like, yeah. So there was a little bit of quarreling
Mhm.
around the just stylistic bent that the album he did have. But all in all, I still think it's a great album, and I'm still super proud of it.
As you should be. It's like a beautifully melodic punk rock record, and something to that point, like your singing voice. I feel like there's a current of like classic like soul and R&B through it. Like you have a lot of soulfulness to your singing voice compared to like maybe like your Patti Smiths or your more like gravel throated kind of contemporaries of the time. But I feel like I pick up like Motown in your singing
Oh,
voice.
wow. See, this is again when we were saying earlier, like I love hearing other people's interpretation because you never know what you're gonna get. Like I never in a million years would have ever thought Motown, but I will take it because I listen to a lot of blues and funk and R&B. So yeah. I mean even the guitar playing, like that's what drew me into guitar playing was blues.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Those like tasty like pew, pew, can't not be
How's it go?
pew, pew. That's my voiceover work for the podcast. Um
I like it.
and then so what was like what did like starting to hit the road look like? Because Lunachicks, like I saw you've like toured everywhere in the world, toured with like every kind of crazy band. Um, the one thing I'd love to ask about, like when you go from like going out on tour, what was that transition like to you at that in that era, the like get in the van kind of era?
Well, I do remember. So the first tour we ever did was in the UK, opening up for Dinosaur Jr. And I guess I was just so young and naive. I didn't really understand what touring was. Um, After the day, like I didn't really understand the day in and the day out of it, of just like the repetitiveness of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I got to like after a couple of weeks, I'm like sitting in the van. I'm like, wait, this is what it is. Like just
Right.
like van club hotel, van club hotel, van club hotel. And at first I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can stomach this for another month. But then eventually I got into the groove of it, but it took that little kind of learning curve of understanding, yeah, it's not all that glamorous. I mean, for the hour that you're on stage, that's like, the fun part, but then there's all this other stuff that goes up, that builds up to that moment that, some of it's just kind of dull, but in the end it's worth it. I mean, it's worth the payoff is the
Hmm.
stage and the performance, and yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I guess when I was younger, I always figured that when you're on tour, you got to kind of like see a lot of stuff when you were traveling. But I'm learning more and more that that's not always the case. But you did like, because I know Fat has this like NoFX has this like presence in Japan. Lunachicks played Japan.
Yeah, we went to Japan 3 times, actually.
Oh, cool.
And that was wild. That was really, really cool. It was a very different experience. First of all, the rock the some of the clubs, or a lot of the clubs, so Japan, in Tokyo, is a very populated city, and very tall buildings, and a lot of businesses and commerce are in, just high rise buildings, like, so even the rock clubs, like, so you would get onto the elevator with your guitar, and there'd be all these other people shopping, because it was basically a large mall, and you have like fifth floor lingerie, and sixth floor menswear, seventh floor rock club. It was just like the weirdest thing to like be sitting in an elevator with shoppers, and you're like all dressed up in your stage makeup. But then you open the door to the rock club, and there's like all these screaming fans, and they went nuts, and they were just so fun and generous and cool and kind, and yeah,
That
super receptive audiences.
awesome. Like they're just very excited for
So
music.
excited.
That's
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like bands like the shows they talk about in Japan and Asia are they always talk about as like being the most memorable shows.
Well, there, it was the one time that we really had this kind of taste of Beatlemania type
Uh-huh.
fandom, because they, like, one of our trips, we were leaving, and we were in the airport, and we hear all this screaming, and we look up, and there was a bunch of fans holding a big banner saying goodbye. And I was like, in the airport. I'm
Aw.
like, what? That's never happens. That's amazing. And they would shower us with gifts, and they would cry. They would get so excited they would cry. It was so sweet. It was amazing.
Oh, that's adorable. Like I love when fans like get to the show early and like show interest in the whole show. That's wild. I'm so glad that you got to have that experience. I love Japan.
Yeah.
I've been there a few times. I'm going back soon. It's just like one of my favorite places to be in the whole world. That's so wild.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Do you remember like any of the bands that you played with over there?
So there was a Japanese band that we toured with called Goop. They were also all female, and they were really cool. And I sadly can't say that I remember any of the other bands, but I remember Goop because I think we toured with them. Or no, wait, they were called Droop. I'm sorry.
Droop.
Old brain.
Uh,
Droop, not Goop, but Droop, which is even cooler than Goop.
oh, most assuredly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look them up because I did like a deep dive into like the Japanese alt and punk scene a few years ago, and there's
Oh yeah.
still a lot of very cool tuneful punk rock being made kind of across the gambit.
Yeah.
And like the one like real punk band that I know is still there, even though their drummer passed last year, but I think they're continuing is a High Standard. I think
Okay.
they play one show a year. They sell out a baseball stadium. And the other one that I know every band they open for like every band from the US that comes over is Secret Seven Line. They're sort of like a NoFX kind of
Oh,
melodic
okay. I never heard of them.
skate punk band. There's a lot of stuff
Do you
online.
know? Do you know Octo Beaver? Octo Beaver.
No.
Oh my god, you have to check them out.
Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Oh, they're so badass. And I know I'm mangling their name right now, but it's like OKTO. I think it's Beaver. I could be wrong, but I think it's like Octo Beaver or something. And they are these women, these Japanese women, and they play just like insane kind of punk hardcore metal chaos craziness,
Uh-huh.
but like brilliant organized chaos kind of. Just check it out.
I most
It's a trip.
certainly will. Makes me think of this band Melt Banana. I saw them.
I was gonna ask you about Milk Banana.
Oh, I know Melt
I
Banana.
love.
I
First of all, that's the best name ever. Come on, Milk Banana.
it's an
What a
incredible.
good
It's
name.
such a great name. It's like instantly memorable. It's to the point you're like, oh, I gotta find out more about that. I remember like I saw them open for Tool when I was in college, and I was
Oh
thinking,
wow.
wow, I have not heard anything like that before. That is so like chaotic and strange and weird. I gotta listen to more of it. And then I heard them referenced in a Big D and the Kids Table song, and I was like, I'm not the only one who knows about Melt Banana. Uh, yeah, they are insane in all of the best ways. They're really great.
Just actually one of the things I love about Japan is, they love to use a lot of English words in descriptions on a lot of their products. And but they, I mean, maybe it's different now with like translation apps and stuff, but back then, like in the 90s, like you would get like a can of soda and the description would be shrimp kitty warm milk. I was like, what the fuck is this? I just love the grouping of the English words and the way that they chose. It was just so fun and playful and bizarre.
Shrimp Kitty
So
Warm.
that Melt Banana
Mm.
looks like that. Reminds me of that.
Yeah, no, I Shrimp Kitty Warm Milk. They'd open for Melt Banana.
Yes.
That's how I'm picturing that. And then you also toured with the Ramones.
We did not tour with them, but I wish we have played with them though. We opened up for them a couple different times, and we did tour. We did a tour with CJ Ramones solo band, but we never toured with the Ramones. But we did have the pleasure of opening up for them twice, and our little teenage minds were blown. That was amazing.
Oh, that
Yeah, they are heroes of ours. So
very very cool. Yeah, because I sort of um in a way I see them as sort of like the patient zero of everything that you and I like have grown to do and love,
yeah,
because that's sort of like cartoon character version of
yeah.
of punk. They were essentially doing sped up versions of like Ye- Ohio Express and like teeny bopper garage bands.
Yes, I would say that they're the gateway drug into punk. Like
Mm-hmm.
because they grabbed me when I was like 8, 9. I was young,
Mm-hmm.
like when I heard the Ramones because I had an older sister, and it was poppy, and I was like, just drawn to it as a kid. It was they were just made it so easy to get into it, and then from there, then you're listening to Motorhead, all the hard stuff. But,
Oh yeah, that's
but
such a great rabbit hole to go down. And every
yeah,
time I see a bass player with a white P bass and a black pickguard, I'm like, Dee Dee,
yeah,
Dee Dee.
yeah.
Everybody's doing Dee Dee when they do that.
And when with the legs spread across, I mean, come on, he was the coolest bass player and had the coolest stage stance with the legs wide apart and like yeah,
I I
like
am so happy to hear you say that, because to me like a low slung bass is like the only way to play bass. I'm pretty tall, so I wear my bass kind of below my waist when I play.
what is it about bass players and tall people? Like, you never notice that like bass players are always tall. They are. They're
Hmm.
just tall and skinny usually. It's a bass player thing.
I don't know. That's a
No, you never.
I mean, I'm gonna pontificate on it right now, because now that I think about it, especially like I think of Sid Vicious, think of Paul from the Clash. There are a lot of skinny basses. I wonder if like it hits harder if you have a more skeletal if you have more surface area, like maybe bass hits you harder. Because I remember the first time I ever went to like a little DIY show somewhere, I remember being like right in front of the speakers and heard like a really like chuggy kind of gritty bass line. I just remember thinking, "Oh, I like that way it feels like being kind of punched by the bass."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Bass players, they're cool. They're just cool people.
I think bass attracts a sort of laid back kind of person. Like
Yeah,
drummers, I've known a lot of drummers, especially my more metalhead drummers. There's a certain sort of like animal from Muppets kind of energy. Like,
yeah. No, they're
I want
crazy.
to hit on stuff. I want to make loud noises. And then I know
Drummers are crazy. Bass players are cool, and guitar players are nerds. Like they're just nerds.
nerds who
Yes.
need to be the center of attention, but not
Yes.
quite.
It's true.
Um,
It's true.
I think bass. I think to play bass, you just have to be kind of more comfortable with yourself and knowing that, like, unless you make yourself the center of attention, most people, you just got to be like quietly holding everything together.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's kind of what bass in rock bands does, and I think that just attracts a certain vibe and mindset. That's what I think it is
Yep.
for bassists.
Yeah, I was not cool enough to be a bass player.
Oh, I wasn't cool enough to be a lead guitarist, so I was like, I'll be bass player cool. How long did Lunachicks tour like this?
We toured pretty steadily from, I want to say, from like 1990 to almost 2001. Our last tour was like December 2000. So yeah, so it took us a couple of years. Like we had formed technically at 1987, but we didn't start playing until like a year and a half later,
Right.
because we were still in high school and we were just messing around. So,
Mm-hmm.
but we toured a lot, and we went out with a lot of fabulous bands. Like we were, like, I guess a preferred opening band, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but a lot of really cool bands would take us out. We toured with NOFX, and we toured with Marilyn Manson, and we toured with Reverend Horton Heat, and just the list goes on. But yeah, we went everywhere.
That's awesome. Like to have those experiences, and then okay, so last tour is in 2000. So I want to kind of trace the lines through to the solo career here, and
Okay.
then come back around to this new single. So things kind of start dying down around early 2000, in late 2000. I can't. What does this era kind of look like for you moving into the need to do your second band? Because I know you're in another band and the solo stuff, and I can't imagine that 9/11 doesn't factor into this in some kind of way if you were in the city at the time.
Well, so our last tour was like right before 2001, the beginning of 2001. But I think for me at least, the big factor was the millennium, like 2000 had just hit.
Right.
And I was like, oh my god, it's a whole new era. And I loved Lunachicks. I love what we were doing. But I knew I always wanted to sing, and I knew I always wanted to make music that was slightly different than what I was already doing. And I just felt like, it's time. It's time to do that, because if I don't do that now, I'm never going to do it. I didn't want to keep putting it off anymore. So
Yeah.
I made a leap. It was a leap of faith. And so I started a band called Bantam, with just me and two bald guys, and it was my power trio. And then I got to do, like, we got a little like math rocky, prog rocky, like, but I still wanted to keep it melodic. But I wanted to just be a little bit darker, dissonant, and a little bit. Uh, we were not a punk band necessarily. We were more of a heavy rock band, but definitely you can hear the punk influences. That
Yeah.
Even if I try to get away from it, that creeps back up in everything I do, and that's for a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's in your DNA.
So, it is. It really is.
Yeah, all those rides to
yeah.
CBGBs, like that doesn't come out easily. No, growing up on that stage, yeah, it's just kind of
Yeah.
always informing some area.
Yeah, even in this solo album, I have a song that's like, well, it's a straight up punk song. What am I gonna do? Like, and I love it. I'm super psyched. Can't wait to play it for you.
Very, very, very cool. So drink me is the newest single, and then let's talk a little bit about the solo album. So when does the solo album come out? Is there a release date yet?
So the release date is February 23rd, 2024.
Okay.
Um, 022324, which is actually why I picked it. It's a
Uh-huh.
little random, but I was like, but that's such a cool date. So I have I'm gonna put out 3 more singles before I put out the whole album. So I have a single coming out December 1st called The Plan. And then in January I'll be releasing 2 more singles until the whole enchilada in February.
Amazing. And do you think you'll tour on this?
I would like to do. I'm not so sure about like doing like full extended tours, but I want to play some live shows. I don't quite have a live band yet because I do everything myself except for the drums. So I have to find a keyboard player, I have to find a bass player, I have to find a drummer, and I would like another guitar player. Like I want to make a full. Everybody's like, just do an acoustic. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I want the full thing.
Yeah.
So I got to put that together.
Awesome. Yeah, well, just coming from Dream Me as I tilt the camera to show my basses in the background. um
Oh, let's see. What you got? What you got?
I it might be a little tricky. I hope I don't unplug something, but I could show them after
Oh,
you too.
I see them. Okay,
Yeah, so
I got you.
my my go-to for live is I have a Fender Mexican jazz bass in candy apple red that I've had since college. I That has Seymour Duncan's in it, and I play that everywhere. And then the other bass that I use here a lot, which is my darling wife got for me for my 30th birthday, is I have a Mark Hoppus P bass that has Seymour Duncan's in it.
Nice, nice. Well, fun fact. So, Drink Me, that main riff is actually a bass. It's not a guitar.
Oh, really?
So, and that is on a Fender. That is Sid from the Lunachicks. That's her backup bass that I've had for the last like 25 years. Um, I record all my bass on that Fender Precision,
Hmm.
but that's her bass, and that main riff, that's all bass. It's not even a guitar.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. It's like so
Yeah,
fuzzed out and cool.
yeah.
Well, I feel like we should put a call out to potential band members on this podcast for you, Gina, because
Okay.
this
Yep.
album sounds like it's going to be super sick
Oh, it's so good.
just off of this first single. Um, I'd love to add one other thing I want to ask you, and then I'd love to nerd out about guitars for a second towards the end. I try to save that stuff. Um, I would love to ask you, because I try to think a lot about like the craft of songwriting and learn more about like what makes songs good, and like I always that's something I'm really focusing on now. Um, how do you feel that your approach to songwriting has changed from like Lunachicks and when you were younger to now?
Well, I will say that I have a lot more freedom now because I'm not beholden to anyone. I'm not beholden to a band or a collaborator or any, like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. And I'm like, I don't even have a fan base. So like, I mean, I do, but I feel like I am just, I approach music the same way I approach a painting. I'm going to make layers. I'm going to find elements that I think are just cool and beautiful, and I'm going to put them here, and then I'm going to arrange them in different ways. And I, like, so like, for instance, Drink Me, the whole song came about because I was going through a new synth plugin that I had just downloaded, and I heard that synth sound that's the opening of the track, and I was like, oh, I love it. And so I was like, let me make a song out of it. So I'll find elements that'll inspire me. There's something about a sound that I hear that I'm just like, I need to do something with this. And it's the same way when I'm painting. Like I'll find a color or a shape, and I'm like, I need to do something with this. So it's not a conventional. Lyrics always come to me last, whereas I think a lot of songwriters, the lyric is the song.
Yeah.
I wish I was that kind of songwriter, but I'm not. To me, it's more of just, what sound inspires me, and how can I work it in such a way that then it will become a song afterwards.
Makes total sense. Like there's an element to something, and you're like, there's something to that.
Yes.
I understand that. I understand that. Like the only painting I ever do is I go to paint and pour down the Lower East Side with my wife sometimes.
I've always wanted to do that. It looks like fun.
So I can't paint or draw at the slightest, and I love doing. I love going there. It's very, very fun to me. So I highly I definitely recommend it as a fun time. But there's just like a certain quality to paintings, because even though I can't, I like really like appreciate. Like you just see like a certain color, and you're like, oh, I could do something,
Exactly.
something with that, or oh, there's this shape of this building. I can do something with that, and not too dissimilar to the way I think of like scent and taking me back to certain times in my life.
Right.
Art and like the rays of a certain sunrise will remind me
Right.
of like, I don't know, Belfast or San Francisco. Like you just have these like little
Yeah.
moments that kind of are the flash of inspiration and become the
Exactly.
vessel through which the craft, the trade gets
Exactly.
expressed.
Exactly. You have these little mini experiences and these reactions, and that, you know, it just makes you feel something, and you want to just capture that somehow, and you want to work with it and manipulate it and just be around it. So yeah, so I took that synth sound. I was like, I love this.
Uh-huh.
So I had to, then I grabbed the bass and I was like, riff, excellent. And then I'm like, hand claps, done. And then melody too, and all those things. It's but the thing that is always the hardest for me is the whole song will be done except for the lyrics. I'm like, God damn it with the lyrics.
That's tough for me too, and trying to keep something like really unique and specific. One thing that helped me a lot, and this is going to sound super dumb, but I've talked about this video before. I found very randomly some like backstage at some music festival, Dave Grohl and Kyle Gass from Tenacious D were talking about like writing hit songs, and Dave Grohl talked about lyrics, and like he was like, and he specifically, look, white people jam to the lyrics. So think of it like a bumper sticker. Life's a bitch. And then he just starts like playing three chords and singing, life's a bitch. And that really that really kind of made me like, it was like kind of like a lightning rod in my head of course I've heard like, really you have a good choruses a million times, but I started trying to think of lyrics as like what's like a holy shit kind of line? What's something I could write that would make someone tattoo this on them in a way?
Mhm. I have yet to unlock that treasure, but
Well, who knows?
but I always think of the lyrics that I think are the silliest lyrics I've ever heard. Like there's an AC/DC song, um, Overdose. It's one of my, no, wait, no, it's not Overdose. It's on the Back in Black album. I can't remember what song it is, but the line is, "She had the body of Venus with arms." That is like the funniest lyric I've ever heard in my life. And I think they were not trying to be funny about it. They wrote it. I think they thought it was a really deep thing to say, but I just thought that was so funny.
That reminds me, there's this other song like, yeah, like rock lyrics of that time. Like there's a lot of great riffs, but if you pay any attention to it for any kind of second, you're going to be like, what are you talking about? There was this video made the rounds on TikTok a few months ago where the line they kept cut out was, it was like a very like obvious like Machine Gun Kelly kind of like cool kids pop punk kind of take, and this guy just sang, "I'm in Spain without the S," and I was like,
oh
dude,
wow, hilarious.
yeah, and it reminded me of something.
Makes me not feel so bad about my lyrics.
Right. I immediately went back to okay, that's something I definitely would have written in high school. And
Yes.
because in high school I once wrote the lyric, "If the roll calls for a broken heart, then I guess I fit the part." I'm just like, oh man. But it's good to I like to look back on that and think, oh, I'm so glad that's not relevant to me now in 2023.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gina, I feel like you're my new best friend after this.
Oh, come on,
podcast.
we could go on and on and on.
I know. I feel like this can't be the only time you're on the show. This was quite enjoyable. I discovered the song and I was like really into it, and then to hear all of these uh tales from this era that I've like been obsessively researching and studying for so long. I feel like you're like the Spartan who came back to tell tale of the wars.
I live to tell the tale.
And I just have a lot of admiration for like people who make art in New York and are still making art in New York. So you inspire me.
You know, when you were saying before, like you like you just have to do it. You know, yes, I will be an artist to my very last breath. I am compelled to do it. Like it's not. I don't even have a choice whether I wanted to make art or not. I mean, whether if I didn't want to make art. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, I will be making art whether I want to or not, because I am an artist at my core and I am compelled to just keep going. And people are like, man, you've been around for forever. You've done a lot. I'm like, yeah, and I ain't done yet. So there's more to come.
That's very exciting to hear. I love that vibe. Well, I cannot wait for this album when it comes out in February. So where can folks find you to find out more about you?
Okay, so GinaVolpe.com. Pretty easy. All my videos are there. My art is there. You can, and then all the links to my YouTube and my Instagram. I'm at Gina Volpe Music. Same with Facebook. But YouTube is cool because you can see a lot of the videos I've made, and a lot of my video making comes from just me being an artist and working with other artists to make some cool visuals to go with the music. So I'm working on something next for the next single too. So yeah, stay tuned. GinaVolpe.com at Gina Volpe Music.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gina. This was really great. I really appreciate it.
Love talking to you, and yeah, I'll be in touch. Stay tuned.
A untold oral history of New York City punk rock by Gina. That was incredible to have the experience of like basically growing up and being an artist in your formative years at a place like CBGB's is unreal for someone like me who grew up kind of idolizing these places where all of this great music that I enjoy came out of, and to have been all around the world with a band truly remarkable. So an absolute pleasure to talk to Gina. Her newest single, Drink Me, is available everywhere you get your music. You can find links to it in the description. And if you enjoyed this podcast, you should also check out, if you haven't, Gina's band, Lunachicks. And if you enjoyed this podcast and think you know a friend who would want to listen to it as well, you can send them to awesomedisaster.com. That has links to everything related to me and what I do. You could follow me on Twitter or X at Comic Will Carry, and I'm on Threads and Instagram, Will Carry 23, CAREY 23. And if you want to go a little bit further and support the show, you can check out our Patreon as well as our merch store, which are also available at awesomedisaster.com. The holidays are swiftly approaching. If you are cooking, I hope your prep is going well. If you are navigating potentially disastrous political conversations, I hope that you at least have a nice, comfortable patio that you can go outside to get a nice scream in should the occasion arise. And that generally you're looking after you before you have to look out for anybody else in terms of that situation. It can be fraught. I've been there, but you're strong, and I believe in you. Thank you all again so much for being here and listening to this, and thank you to Gina and Melanie Kay for this great conversation. And folks, I will see you next time between Awesome and Disaster. Take care, everybody.